Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're tuning in across the globe. Welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon. Guys and girls, you know the drill. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you'll get all things DutyRon and Ed Wallace when we go live or upload another video. Today, I just had a quick thought that I wanted to talk with you guys about here in the afternoon. But before we get into it, I want to say a special thank you to you, the subscribers, the replay viewers, the channel members, the Patreon supporters. You guys are the heartbeat of Crime Time with DutyRon. We give thanks and praise to you guys each and every day, and thank you so much for your engagement here on Crime Time with DutyRon. Just quickly want to say hello to Karen, Legal Minded Friends, Lorna McKenzie from the UK, Nabul saying nice car, ATS News, Angela. Great to see you guys. Now, yesterday, the Idaho State Legislature passed House Bill 186. So the legislature passed it, House Bill 186, 24-11. The vote was 24 yeas, 11 nays, for reinstituting the firing squad in the state of Idaho. Interesting. Jamie, thank you for becoming a channel member. Interesting because there is a few outstanding cases in Idaho. Joey Brooklyn, good to see you, that are under the death penalty. And you know, Bryan Kohberger, when he gets to trial, the prosecutor in this case, if there was ever a prosecutor in a case where it justified the death penalty, and for the states who have the death penalty on the books, this is a case that is wholeheartedly, it is a ground ball death penalty case. So there is a 99.99999% chance that the prosecution in this case is going to go straight forward for a death penalty case. Lethal injection is what the state has at this point, and no drug companies are coming forward because of all of the liability issues and some of the botched lethal injection executions in the United States. None of the drug companies want to come forward and provide the chemical and the concoction that they use to institute the death penalty. So this will be a second option, and all it has to be done is signed by Governor Brad Little. I believe that it's on his desk, and I believe that he will sign it. Senator Daniel Foreman, who is a Republican, is against it, and he made a plea yesterday before the legislature to ask them to not consider signing this bill. But this bill was an unanimous. It passed and is now on the governor's desk, 24-11. Abby Lee was for it. She's also a Republican from the state of Idaho. So Senator Abby Lee is for it, and she made her pleas to the Congress and to the legislation, to the legislative branch, who was hearing this bill, House Bill 186. So it's on Brad Little's desk. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. What's your thoughts on death penalty by firing squad? Is it barbaric? Is it a little over the top? There are a few states, Utah being one of them, they have it, but this would be a second option for the state of Idaho. And you could bet your bottom dollar. Gator Girl says, hang him. Again, you know, lethal injection, electrocution, the gas chamber, death by hanging, and a firing squad. I mean, those are all, you know, I mean, when you think about it, the firing squad, from what I've been reading and looking and researching into, it's the quickest and it's the most effective as far as I've seen with my research. You know, they place a round a doctor comes and listens to the heart and locates the exact location of where the heart is, and they place a white round target on there, and a expert marksman puts a barrel of a long arm. It's usually a 223 rifle, and it goes through the door, and then they shoot straight through, and they fire these shots. But let's take a listen into a little bit of the coverage, and I want to play it for you because I'm out in the vehicle, I'm running some errands, so I want to play for you and you guys let me know if you could hear it. I'm going to play just a little audio from local. This is KTVB in Idaho, and they played this. This was broadcast yesterday.
Well, let's take a look at some of the big things that are making final moves today. And a final note for you that is making headlines around the country and the world today. That is because Idaho lawmakers have sent a bill to the governor's desk that would add the firing squad as a secondary method of execution in the state of Idaho. Long story short for you, Idaho has had a very difficult time getting the drugs needed to do a lethal injection. And Idaho isn't alone in that. Pharmaceutical companies no longer want their products used for the death penalty. So Idaho has a death row inmate that they've tried to put to death, but continue to have issues getting the chemicals. So in comes House Bill 186, and it is one signature away from being law in the state of Idaho. Governor Brad Little can sign it as soon as this week, and the idea, it already passed the House. So lawmakers knew today that this was the final debate on the topic, adding the firing squad. Supporters say this is about carrying out law and order. Critics of the idea question the consequences.
I've seen the aftermath of shootings, and it's psychologically damaging to anybody who witnesses it, anybody who has a hand in it, anybody who plays a role in the aftermath and the cleanup and all of the logistics involved. It's, in a word, brutal. And the use of the firing squad, in my opinion, is beneath the dignity of the state of Idaho.
There are some who have argued, let's just find another method. Let's come up with something. There are other drugs that we can use. We are constrained and restrained, whether we like it or not, by limited methods of carrying out this policy. And this is one that we know will withstand all of the legal machinations that will continue to be thrown at the policy rather than the method.
So final tally in the Idaho Senate for you this afternoon, 24 to 11, the bill passed.
All right, so that was a little bit of the coverage. We heard from Senator Daniel Foreman, who was against it, and then one of his constituents, Abby Lee, she was for it. He was against it. I said it the reverse way. There's many arguments out there. Is it a firing squad is like an older, barbaric method? But again, I watched and I did a little bit of research on this, and it is, in my eyes, the most. It's the quickest delivery, and it's the most efficient delivery of stopping one person's heart. When you use lethal injections, those are sometimes a concoction of a bunch of different chemicals, and sometimes that can have a adverse reaction, and we could see some really horrible things. When you use the electric chair, that's putting electricity through a person's body at all different points on the body, and that creates a lot of heat and energy, and now you can have malfunctioning, you can have bleeding from the eyes, the ears, the nose, the mouth, and hanging, that, to me, I also feel like that is a little bit barbaric. But lethal injection, the gas chamber, I haven't done enough research to even talk on the gas chamber, but that also seems to be something that takes a period of time, and it's not fast and quick. Whereas when they talk about this firing squad, it is the most direct and fast delivery of a lethal carrying out the death penalty. So I was looking for the right words there, but you let me know what you think in the comment section down below, and also let me know here in the chat if you're for it, against it. Again, the state of Idaho is one signature away, and the governor, Brad Little, I believe, will sign this into law because, as you heard in that piece, they are having a difficult time actually carrying out a death penalty sentence. There is one person in the state of Idaho that is ready to have death by lethal injection, and they cannot find a pharmaceutical drug company to provide the concoction. So Lisa Takloff says, I'm for it. I'd like to see what some of the other folks in the chat, like Richella Pranzo and Pete Pranzo, let me hear what your thoughts are. Hello, Princess Michelle. Good to see you. Folks outside of the United States, like somebody said in the UK, they wish they had it in the UK. Allison, that's Ed Wallace's fangirl. She says, I agree with capital punishment. In certain instances, look, in this Bryan Kohberger case, he murdered 4 college students, allegedly murdered 4 college students with a knife, up close and personal. The family of one of these victims is been vocal about the death penalty, and they are for it. Lorna McKenzie from the UK, she says, I'm for it. Glowbug is chiming in and saying, I'm for it. Sweet Caroline, I'm agreeing with DutyRon. So here's Matthew, I respect this opinion. While I understand the need for justice, I just don't think the government should get in the business of killing people. Just because they lost their humanity doesn't mean we should. I mean, hey, it's a great argument there, and I respect both sides. And I think I've spoke vocally about this with my my aunt, who's still alive and well. She's a Catholic nun. She's way, I am way off on 2 different sides with her. She is against it wholeheartedly. It goes against the Catholic religion. Thou shalt not kill. So she feels that life in prison is what would be a sufficient punishment in cases where you have 1 or more people lives taken. So it's a matter of opinion, and we all have our own opinions. I wanted to come live here this afternoon to just get your thoughts, to get your feelings. Nothing to see says I'm against it, but I believe a firing squad, hold on, that went away, is a better way. Too many people have been found innocent on death row. So there's a whole other aspect to it, right? There's people who are found guilty that are innocent. There's this Innocence Project, and if you look it up, it's out there, the Innocence Project, right? So it's a group of lawyers, and Martin Tanklift, who I've spoken with him a few times on Instant Messenger and on Twitter. We both follow each other. He was found guilty of murdering his parents in the late 80s, I believe in the late 80s or early 80s, 1982, I believe. And he served 17 years in prison for the murders of both his mother and his father. And after 17 years in prison, serving life sentences, he was found through the Innocence Project or through people he hired and that were hired to be not guilty. And he was released from prison after 17 years. If the death penalty was on the books, he would have qualified for that. So with the appeals and all the processes that take place, if you are found guilty of a capital punishment, most states takes about a decade to have the death penalty actually carried out. So I would hope that in a decade's time, that would be more than enough time to have appeals and to see if this person was falsely found guilty of the crimes. So I think that a decade is a good enough buffer and a good enough time to actually figure out whether whether there was any type of doubt in the case. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. And I want to also tell you guys, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Ed Wallace is the return of Ed Wallace. Ed Wallace is going to be with us along with Dr. Murray Marks. Remember, Dr. Murray Marks is a forensic anthropologist, and Barbara Butcher from New York City Medical Examiner's Office, Chief of Staff. Dr. Murray Marks, Barbara Butcher, Ed Wallace, and I will be live 8 o'clock tomorrow night to talk about Stephen Smith. This is the 19-year-old who was killed in 2015. Now, it was first deemed he was shot in the head. Then it was deemed that he was hit by a car and he died from an accident. His family, his mom, raised up, I think, $70,000 or more, and they are going to have his body they're going to exhume him, and they're going to bring him back to, as his attorney said, attorney representing the case for Stephen Smith, Stephen Smith 2.0. They're going to do a second autopsy. So we are going to ask Dr. Murray Marks, who is a forensic anthropologist. He is the director at the Body Farm in Tennessee. So he runs the Body Farm. We're going to bring him back on. He's been on with Ed and I twice, and we're going to ask him what happens in an autopsy when you bring somebody out from that has been buried. You unearth this victim and bring him into a laboratory, into an examination room. What do they do? It's going to be obviously skeletal remains, but we're going to ask Dr. Murray Marks the process and the procedure of what they can and can't do. And Barbara Butcher, you know her, she has her book coming out. I feel tomorrow night's live stream, 8 o'clock Eastern, is going to be well worth the watch. We're all going to get a whole host of education. I think it's going to be a great one, and I don't think you should miss it. But again, tomorrow night, 8 p.m., Ed Wallace, Barbara Butcher, and Dr. Murray Marks will be in the building. Good to see Dylan. Dylan, what's going on? We have a body farm at the school here in Texas at Sam Houston State. Yeah, he runs the one in Tennessee. So it's going to be an interesting live stream, to say the least. So I hope everyone will be here hanging out with us and getting a little bit of an education. So there we go. Sean B is in the house. Thank you for joining. Hello, Pam. We have a body farm in Texas. Yes. Miss Donna Marie, always great to see you. Vicky G, Go Find Me. Exactly. It's a GoFundMe. Yeah, now it's turned out to a Go Find Me. Shooting is good enough if an animal attacks a person. Why should it not be good enough for a person who acts as a monster? And I like that Erica Olson didn't call that person an animal, because sometimes animals are, they're used as an example. Like, this person acted like an animal. And when someone takes 4 people's lives, when someone takes anyone's life, that's an evil monster activity, right? That's a sick, evil monster. If another human being taking another human being's life, just the act or the thought of doing that is evil. And that is the only way, for me, is the only way to express that is it's a sick, evil thought and a sick, evil act, right? You have your mental illness component that comes into play in some of these things. Some people have mental illness that drives them to take another person's life. Mental illness is a very, very serious problem across the globe, not just here in America. It afflicts all human beings worldwide. So when you talk about someone who is capable of taking one or more human beings' lives, those those kind of people should not be walking freely amongst population. Those are dangerous, evil, sick, crazy people. So there is places for people like that, and that's why we have prisons. And in some of these prisons, you have the most evil, demonic people that you could ever imagine, right? And these people do not belong out walking amongst us good, law-abiding citizens, right? And that's the thing, is when you look at true crime and when you look at all of these cases where they go to court and they get, they have a jury of their peers, the prosecution states their case, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and you have the defense trying to defend these people. When it comes down to it, and at the end, and the jury brings back that verdict of guilty or not guilty, that's the process. And there is a time and a place to appeal that process, and we see it in all the cases. Every attorney appeals convictions. What do they have to lose? What do they have to lose? Nothing. So tomorrow night, we're going to explain to you guys about the Body Farm. Body Farm is a place, and I'll just give you a brief overview, where forensic anthropologists and doctors study human remains. People donate themselves to science. After they die, people donate their bodies to the Body Farm, and they do their studies to see how bodies decompose outside, inside, and in different environments and so forth. And they do that study to further science, to further help investigators figure out if there's a body that's discovered in the woods, how many days old is it, based on the research at the Body Farm. So it's a great, great place. And Dr. Murray Marks, the director of the Body Farm, will be with us tomorrow night. So I hope you guys, if you're not yet subscribed, consider subscribing to Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. And if you could, give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you think about Bryan Kohberger and the possibility of him facing, if convicted, innocent until proven guilty. His trial hasn't even started yet. The prosecution hasn't even said if they were going to seek the death penalty. But if there was ever a death penalty case, Bryan Kohberger, the University of Idaho, 4 students who were murdered allegedly by him, this is the case to use the death penalty in. If there was ever a case, this is the one to use it in. And let me just say this. I would be very surprised if they did not utilize the death penalty in this case. I would have to bet you, there's a slim chance, a slim possibility that they do not, but I would say 99.9999999%, the state of Idaho is going to go after Bryan Kohberger with the death penalty. And they're going to utilize that clause. So we're looking at if this bill is signed by the governor, Brad Little, it's on his desk. If he signs it, the firing squad is one of 2 methods. And the first method is lethal injection, and they haven't been able to get a drug company to come up with the actual concoction to inject. They have one person who's ready. They have one inmate that has been convicted and that is ready. They're ready to carry out the death sentence, but they don't have the drugs to do it. So, again, this news broke yesterday, but it's been a conversation for over a month and a half. It's been over a month and a half that they were talking about the firing squad. So the state of Idaho has been going back and forth with this for quite a bit of time, because it's a dilemma that they have. They cannot get a pharmaceutical or / drug company to come up with the lethal injection that they need, liability and all this kind of other stuff. So again, I appreciate everybody hanging on out with me. I had some media that I did want to play for you guys. Sorry that I had to do it by audio, and just playing the audio up to the phone. But I think Josh is going to jump on in and maybe play that one clip, the short clip. I don't want to play the News Nation clip, but it was the second one that I sent to you, Josh. The second clip. If you could just, let me know when you could play that. All right, so Josh is in here. I want you guys to actually visually see this clip, because audio is good, but when you actually get to see it, it's pretty good. It gives you a good overview of this death penalty, and it was passed by a vote of 24-11 on the 20th, which was yesterday. House Bill 186. That is the bill to bring back the firing squad in the state of Idaho for capital punishment cases. And again, there's a lot of people who feel a lot of different ways. I don't know, like my friend Joey Brooklyn here, I know he's very, he's a religious guy. He's, I know it says in the Catholic, under the Catholic religion, thou shalt not kill. And so it's a tough thing. So everybody has a little different. I think Josh is ready. He's going to play this piece for me. We'll go full screen with this. Let it rip, Josh.
Some of the big things that are making final moves today, and a final note for you that is making headlines around the country and the world today. That is because Idaho lawmakers have sent a bill to the governor's desk that would add the firing squad as a secondary method of execution in the state of Idaho. Long story short for you, Idaho has had a very difficult time getting the drugs needed to do a lethal injection, and Idaho isn't alone in that. Pharmaceutical companies no longer want their products used for the death penalty. So Idaho has a death row inmate that they've tried to put to death, but continue to have issues getting the chemicals. So in comes House Bill 186, and it is one signature away from being law in the state of Idaho. Governor Brad Little can sign it as soon as this week, and the idea, it already passed the House. So lawmakers knew today that this was the final debate on the topic, adding the firing squad. Supporters say this is about carrying out law and order. Critics of the idea question the consequences.
I've seen the aftermath of shootings, and it's psychologically damaging to anybody who witnesses it, anybody who has a hand in it, anybody who plays a role in the aftermath and the cleanup and all of the logistics involved. It's, in a word, brutal. And the use of the firing squad, in my opinion, is beneath the dignity of the state of Idaho.
There are some who have argued, let's just find another method. Let's come up with something. There are other drugs that we can use. We are constrained and restrained, whether we like it or not, by limited methods of carrying out this policy. And this is one that we know will withstand all of the legal machinations that will continue to be thrown at the policy rather than the method.
So final tally in the Idaho Senate for you this afternoon, 24-11, the bill passed.
All right, so there you have it, 24-11. And that's everything that I've been telling you here. Josh, I appreciate you making it in at the last minute to play that. Again, if you're not yet subscribed to Crime Time with DutyRon, please subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Let me know in the comments section down below what you think of the firing squad and how it pertains to Bryan Kohberger and how it pertains to all inmates in the state of Idaho. If you're an Idahoan, if that's even a word, if you're from the state of Idaho, let me know what your thoughts are. And if you're just somebody who is concerned about this, leave the comment down below in the comment section. Hey, tomorrow night, again, 8 p.m. Eastern, Ed Wallace, the return of Ed Wallace. He's going to be joining us with Dr. Murray Marks and Barbara Butcher. We're going to talk about Stephen Smith and his second autopsy, having his body removed from his final resting place almost 8 years later. What are the, what are some of the obstacles that they'll be facing? What will this autopsy 2.0 consist of? And we'll get those answers from a forensic anthropologist and a legal medical death investigator, Barbara Butcher from the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8 p.m. As I always like to end these, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. God bless the world. God bless the United States of America, and God bless each and every one of us here in the chat, but especially these victims of crime that we speak about and their families. We send them strength, prayers, and positive vibes. Thank you to all the super chatters, the super thanks, the replay viewers, and the mods. Talk to you guys soon. Peace and love.